So yes, we have some pretty big news today about Cyberpunk. We have a new Quest director. As you guys may remember, the former Quest director left CD Projekt Red after being with the studio for nearly 12 years. So this is going to be shaping the future of this game big time. Plus, we have a brand new interview with CD Projekt Red's boss. We're going to be diving into this one right here. Some great insights as to what to expect from the future of CD Projekt Red, as well as Cyberpunk 2077 and a bunch of other news. So let's dive into this right now. Hey everyone, what's happening? Open World Games here. Hope you're doing good, and let's dive into the latest happenings around Cyberpunk 2077. First of all, starting with the news about this new Quest director. So, guess who it is? I bet some of you can actually guess who the new Quest director is. It is Paul Sasko. He has been promoted to Quest director right here. He posted this out on Twitter. As you can see, he is changing his tagline to Quest director right here. So, it seems like overall people receive this news very well. Paul Sasko has been engaging with the community on a whole other level compared to anyone else that's really working on Cyberpunk. He's still doing weekly live streams. He's actually asking for your feedback on current quests in the game, what you liked, what you didn't like, to basically shape the future of what's coming up here for the game with the expansions, free DLC, that sort of thing. So it's really cool that they have promoted him, and hopefully he does a really good job. Now, we have Deep Fried Vegetable who says, I'm just happy to find out they're still working on Cyberpunk Quest. Period. Yeah, I'm relieved to hear this as well. Now, let's dive into this new interview with CD Projekt Red's boss right here. So let's do this. This one comes from Bloomberg. It goes on to say the following right here. It says, CD Projekt will boost hiring and revamp operations as Chief Executive Officer Adam Kinski says Poland's largest computer game maker has learned from the fiasco around Cyberpunk 2077. Furthermore, the article says this: marketed as a role-playing game that pushes the boundaries of the industry, Cyberpunk was released with so many glitches that Sony Group Corp for months removed the title from its PlayStation Store. The studio's share tumbled as the debacle shone an unfavorable light on CD Projekt work culture, with reports of bad planning, burnouts among staff, and high-profile defections. So, what have they done about these issues? Let's find out. It says Kinski insists those days are now gone. He eventually wants to increase the number of employees by an average of 20% a year, restoring the pace of hiring from before the pandemic. CD Projekt is also switching to the so-called agile workflow model in game development and expects to see the results at the turn of this year. So you guys know I did a recent video about their job listing page. Like, they have really doubled down on the job offerings on that page. They've also are seeking an open world designer for Cyberpunk. In fact, 2 open world designers. But also the good news about the actual job listing is they are really upping their game when it comes to quality assurance, because their job listing in that regard has also doubled. So that's good to see. They really need to fine-tune what they're doing on the QA end of things for sure. Now, it goes on to say this: the retrospection of the project that didn't go exactly as planned has triggered a strong motivation for change, Kinski told Bloomberg from CD Projekt's headquarters in Warsaw, which features yoga classes, Indian food canteen, and dog walks. Ooh, fancy smancy. It's almost like they never want you to leave. No, I'm just kidding. But anyway, they say this: about 100 out of 1,124 staff already use the agile method, which splits game development process into smaller, flexible cycles and involves customers for feedback, he added. All right, so that's good to hear that they're trying to really work with the development teams in regards to burnout, it sounds like. Now, furthermore, it goes on to say the following: CD Projekt's hiring slowed to 7% last year when many of its employees were forced to work remotely. The new work-from-home regime was one factor behind Cyberpunk's bungled release that was eventually delayed 3 times, according to Kinski. The company's developers' headcount fell by 10 in the first half of the year, shrinking a workforce that already trailed competitors including Ubisoft Entertainment and Rockstar Games. Yeah, it always got to me that the amount of people they had working on Cyberpunk was way less than what you saw with like Ubisoft's titles with Assassin's Creed or even, GTA 5. They needed way more people working on this game from the get-go, in my opinion. Now, Kinski said CD Projekt is facing challenges as some people still want to work remotely and new hires are often reluctant to relocate to Poland. Only about a third of its staff decided to return to the office, which isn't mandatory until the end of the year. So yeah, you can see how the pandemic is definitely still influencing the development of games. It's influencing a lot of stuff, including the movie industry. So hopefully, by summer 2022, a lot of stuff does calm down in regards to, the pandemic and things like that. And hopefully there's better prep for whatever other, pandemic could happen. Now, also, it says, meanwhile, Vancouver-based Digital Scape Studio, which the company bought in March as its first foreign outpost, could eventually grow to as many as 100 employees from over a dozen, Kinsey said. CD Projekt, which has $1.1 billion, $288 million of free cash, isn't interested in buying smaller Polish studios just to boost earnings, he said. So, they're really becoming a global brand as well. They're really going outside of Poland, which is definitely interesting. Now, it says, Walkinski is cautiously satisfied with the first result of changes in the organization. He didn't want to confirm that a Cyberpunk version optimized for next-generation consoles slated for later this year will arrive on time, a major focus for investors seeking an inflection point. So, yeah, it sounds like it's very likely that this next-gen version of Cyberpunk, as well as any huge updates, could unfortunately be pushed to 2022, early 2022. We'll see what happens. We'll wait for any official announcements, but I do hope they let us know sooner than later. Now, it says, I deeply believe the game's perception may significantly improve in the future, he said, adding he doesn't expect a wow effect, but rather a gradual rebuilding of sales. And in my most recent video, we're seeing that gradual positive increase on the Steam charts. It's not anything groundbreaking, and we're already seeing some of that happening, though. It's not like the game and the community is losing numbers. It's actually gaining numbers, but very slowly. All right, finally, the article wraps up by saying the following. Shares in CD Projekt gained 1.3% at 3 p.m. in Warsaw. They lost as much as 62% of their value as a result of Cyberpunk troubles, triggering lawsuits from U.S. holders of depository receipts. Kinski called the lawsuit strange, as the company didn't approve or benefit from the sale of securities offered by U.S. investment banks and vowed to fight back. We do games and may seem like a jazz and rock bunch, Kinski said, but we do take formal issues very seriously. So you can see that the lawsuits are still very much going on. They're going to be probably happening for the next year or maybe even 2 years, because they could be a long-term thing for sure. Now, also, some of you guys had some comments about one feature that we really haven't touched base on, and it is this right here that's actually missing from Cyberpunk. It's so simple. Solo in Artinum says this, you know what Cyberpunk needs? A flashlight. I will never understand why this is not in the game already. You would think that, a mercenary that's decked out with all this technology would have access to a flashlight. But yes, that's one thing they need to add into the game through some sort of update, is some sort of flashlight, because there are areas in the game that you get into where you're like, damn, this is so dark, I need a freaking flashlight right now. All right, it is time to go over your top comments. Remember to leave a comment down below. It could end up right here in a future video. So let's do this. First of all, we have the video, which was called CD Projekt Red is placing the future of the game in your hands. Brand new update. So yes, Paweł Sasko, Quest Director, is looking for your feedback on all things Quest in the game. What you hated, what you loved, what you want to see more of. So be sure to comment on that video if you really want to give your feedback, because they are actually listening. They want to know what you guys have to say. Now, Luigi goes on to say this, more consequences for your choices in Quest, please. Factions requiring you to re-earn their trust before doing business with you, or even never trusting you again once you pass a certain threshold, and being more hostile, putting hits on you. Businesses in their territory reluctant to sell you things unless you disguise yourself. This would be where some of the character customization options would be useful narratively, or they make you go out back and charge you more. I love this idea. Once again, you know, I mention this game often. This screams The Godfather. The Godfather had all these mechanics. You would go in and you would take over a front. Depending on how threatening you were, you would get more money from that, or you could actually overdo it and lose their trust entirely. So there's a lot of themes here that, to me, I absolutely love, and I think it would fit perfectly in Cyberpunk, because you would expect this sort of thing to be in this world. At least I would think. Now, Killer X20 says quest branches, being able to go different routes, and your choices actually affecting the way it plays out, like the first big mission in Cyberpunk. Yeah, quest branches would be really, really cool to see for sure. It would definitely up the replay value of the game. Chris 999103 says game needs content density, quests, real gang wars, functional and walkable underground metro system, overhead track, meaningful police interaction, search and arrest mechanic, chases, bank heists with shootouts. You'd think that this, like, it's never in games. I'm telling you, this one simple thing, even though like banks exist, it just really gets to me that something that simple isn't in games. Now, reputation system, new storylines, more underground areas with own ecosystem, sewers, police, no-go areas, corporate secret wars and conflicts, and so forth. Love these ideas. I mean, it'd be so cool to see all of this in the game and really fleshed out. But yeah, back to the bank heist and stuff like that. It's interesting you mentioned that, because you know, there were some files that were found by some data miners suggesting that they had some sort of heist in the game. It was perhaps going to be used for multiplayer, but they were really looking into it. But I would love to see this as a single player mechanic, where you can actually take this on as like a permanent type job throughout the city. It can be very, very dynamic, taking on vaults, penthouses, banks, that sort of thing. That would be so cool. Now, Hound Archin says the following. He says the game needs more quests, side missions and gigs, and interactive NPCs. Otherwise, it will never be as in-depth or immersive as it was promised. Cosmetics, customization, and collecting gear should be included automatically. The story needs to pick up after the multiple innings in an expansion, so gamers can take their storylines further. So people actually want to see the story continued. I guess perhaps, I don't know what character, 'cause I don't know if I should talk about the ending or not, if you guys are up for spoilers. But anyway, yeah, it's interesting, because I don't know if they're gonna bring us a brand new character in the Cyberpunk world. I personally think that's what they might do, or they might do some sort of weird prequel. It's gonna be interesting to see what they actually decide. Then we have Lentinius, I believe it is Lentius, who says, I feel like there's a ton of content in the game that was stripped away. When I play the game, it just feels like there was content planned that was taken away, especially in the beginning. Life paths felt like they were meant to be longer. It felt like you were supposed to be around Jackie for at least another 5 hours longer. The entire first arc feels like it belongs as a prologue, and it's incredibly evident with Cyberpunk title card happening at the end of the first arc, and all arcs feel like they were meant to be another 5 hours longer. Like when you get taken out to the junkyard and Blackout, I feel like there's supposed to be more content in between that moment and when you're on the chase scene. It feels so out of the blue to just black out and then wake up to that guy wounded, being chased and stripped of all of his cyberware. I think they had plans of having it to be 3 arc story with prologue and epilogue that is different for each life path and ending you choose. And if you play a second time, like I have a feeling that it was way more apparent. Yeah, so it's interesting you mentioned all this. I think that was their plan until they hired Keanu Reeves, and then things shifted with everything regarding what they were developing. That's just my theory with that, but they were like, how do we get more Keanu Reeves in this game? Well, they're going to have to cut corners with certain things that they were already planning. So that's what I feel happened with this game. And you actually see that in movies as well, where there's odd breaks and weird things that happen. You find out, well, this is how it was supposed to be, but this happened in writing. So yeah, you can definitely feel that in the game for sure. But there it is, guys. The latest happenings around Cyberpunk 2077. It's good to see that they are serious about hiring more talent for this studio. You know, I want to see more Cyberpunk content. I want to see this game around for a long time. As you can see, the world itself is absolutely beautiful, and there's a lot of potential here. So we'll see what happens. But thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more, and I will see you all next time. Take care.